I'm a huge fan of the YouTube persona Christopher Hitchens. I used to be a huge fan of his, and I enjoyed his book on his criticism of religion. And I also read his book Letters to a Young Contrarian, and I've read hundreds of pages of his essays. Uh, and his writing is some of the most difficult writing I have ever read. His vocabulary was extensive. He was a voracious reader, and I enjoyed watching him debate people just the way he would verbally hitch slap people. That's the term, like, we all heard the term verbally, like bitch slap somebody, verbally bitch slap someone. He would, but because of how well he would do they would call it a hitch slap. And that inspired me to debate in a style when I was in college, similar to Christopher Hitchens, just destroying people with facts like crazy. That was a precursor to my what do you call it? Introduction to another persona that was similar to him, Ben Shapiro. And my brother, one of my siblings said that I remind him of Ben Shapiro. That's because Ben Shapiro and I have an INTJ personality, and because of our higher pitched voice, and we're both firstborns, so we might have other traits in common. So people have told me that I remind them of Ben Shapiro, but before that, I aspired to be like Christopher Hitchens. I was reading 6, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. I remember reading a book by Richard Dawkins, The Greatest Show on Earth, evolutionary biology book, while under the influence of an insane amount of alcohol when I was like 18 or 19 years old. And I was drinking like crazy, like Christopher Hitchens, and occasionally I started smoking while drinking because he inspired me to live the bohemian lifestyle, and I was traveling extensively. But then I stopped drinking and smoking because I don't want to end up like Christopher Hitchens. Because sadly, Christopher Hitchens passed away when he was like 61 or 63 or something like that. I think he was like 60, so early 60s, and that's because he was drinking and smoking for decades. And eventually caught up to him, and he died from throat cancer. I think they diagnosed him with like stage 4. And like he said, the thing about stage 4 is there's no stage 5. And he was apparently brave about, what was coming. And the way he said, I know what's coming. I know, like, blah, 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 blah. Like, I forgot the exact words, so I'm not going to try to say it. But I just found that extremely admirable, that he was just, facing death without, crying, or apparently to cry in any of the interviews. He was very mature about the reality that he was going to die. And I also have found myself in more than one occasion thinking that I was going to die. I believed I was stung by a box jellyfish. I forgot what the actual term is, but the extremely venomous one. It's the most venomous animal on Earth. It's more venomous than every other snake in Australia. And this box jellyfish, once it stings you, you can die within like minutes of being stung by it. And I thought I got stung by it, and I thought I was gonna die. And instead of calling the hospital, maybe I should have called an ambulance, but I just knew that the reality is that I probably was gonna die, and I was just gonna accept my fate and relax while I died. It turns out I didn't die. That was an intense, terrifying situation. I also had this other situation when I was younger. I thought I was dying, and instead of crying, I decided to just be as comfortable as possible and just accept death. I generally believed I only had like a few minutes left, and I was like, okay, statistically speaking, if I have a few minutes left and it takes so and so how long to get here from the hospital, I'm just gonna relax and just pass away. And that's how I am. And I'm not one to cry or like even shed a tear as I think I'm dying, because I had another situation where I thought I was dying. And yeah, I'm just that kind of person. Christopher Hitchens, maybe is one of my inspirations to adopt that kind of mentality. But he's an amazing man. I even used to write like him, and he was just somebody that I admired, and I still admire somewhat. But I know his lifestyle isn't a lifestyle that I should adopt, because he was heavier than me, he smoked more than me, he drank more than me. And I would love to live long enough to reach the age of what my grandfather reached. My grandfather recently passed away about a year ago. He was 88 years old, and I haven't really spoken too much about it. Actually, I don't think I've ever made a video on it. But my grandfather died before I left to Australia, and I never got to say goodbye. But I'm not a bitch. and I didn't make a single video about it. It just occurred to me right now, when I'm like that, I look like the devil. Man, a lot of people have told me that I look like I'm evil, but in reality, I'm a very nice guy. I'm a very friendly guy.